Hello, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another reading vlog where I'm gonna be reading Iron Gold. So Iron Gold is the fourth book in the Rising Saga, which is sci-fi, and this is like the first book after the initial trilogy. So it is set after like a time jump. And although I didn't absolutely love the first book, Red Rising, the second and third I really loved, especially the third. Like, it was an easy 5-star book, so I was very excited to get into this and to see like how much our characters had changed and like how the world had changed in this time jump. I didn't really know how long the time jump was, but I knew that like it was years. So yeah, I was very excited to get into this series that I love and to be back with these characters that I also love. And there are spoilers for like everything that happens in this book. In this video, it is completely spoilery. And having said that, let's just get into the video. Okay, so I have read part 1 of Iron Gold, which is, I think, actually around the third. There are 3 parts, and I think it is at least close to a third. I got to page 195, and this is around 600, so pretty close to a third. And unlike the 3 previous books, we are not just following Darrow's POV. We actually have 4 POVs. And so we have, Darrow as usual. We have Lysander. We have Ephraim. Actually, I had never tried to say that name out loud, so I have no idea if that's how you say it. And Lyria. And I think I'm gonna leave Darrow for like the end because I think that's where I have like the most to say. So we can start with Lyria maybe. And Lyria is a new character. And she is a Red from Mars. And she is, I think, 18. And when you start following her, she talks about like the broken promises that were made like 10 years ago when like the first trilogy ended, basically. Because yes, like there has been a 10-year gap between the end of the third book and the start of this one. And she's talking about how like they promised so much and they haven't really delivered anything, and they continue to not have like such a great life. And then the Red Hand attacks, and they are there to kill like her people, basically. And she actually sees her brother die like in the very beginning, and then her sister is like trying to run with her kids, but there is like one of the kids that is at the infirmary. So Lyria says that like she will go back to get like that specific kid, and she will meet them afterwards. And we see her like in the midst of the chaos with the boy who I think is called Liam. I could be wrong. They're trying to survive like the attack, and then a ship of the Republic gets there to like stop the Red Hand, but a lot of people have already died, and actually Lyria's sister and all of her nephews and nieces, I don't know if they were boys and girls. Either way, like all of the kids have died as well, all of them except like the one that she went to get. And she actually saved a gold while the attack was going on, and the gold turns out to be Kavak's, and he says that like he's in debt to her, so like he will do, like if she needs help, like he will help her. And so she said that she wants to get out of Mars, and they are going to Luna, so she asks him to take her and her nephew, and he ends up agreeing, and they go, and she will basically like be working for him, and they are on their way to Luna. And that's what we have with Lyria. Then with Ephraim, he is a gray, and I don't think he appeared, but I'm pretty sure he was mentioned before. And he's a gray, and he has like a whole team, and they basically are doing some heists, and we see them doing a heist in the beginning of the book, and then he is like caught and taken by a pink who he then learns is the Duke of Hands. And that guy says that like someone stole his sword and that someone was Ephraim, and he wants to know like where his sword is, and he's like gonna torture him to get answers, but Ephraim doesn't like give anything away. And apparently that was all a test. He was the one who wanted the sword stolen, and like to know if Ephraim could be trusted to not say like who hired him. And he passed the test. Like basically he told someone else that to pretend that they were the one hiring them, but you know. And that was all the test, and Ephraim passed, and he says that like he needs someone like him to like steal what he wants to steal, and he's basically just says that they're going to steal the most valuable thing in all the worlds. And then we have Lysander, and Lysander was the grandson of like the previous sovereign, and he is now 20. Like he was a literal child when we last saw him, and now he's 20 years old, and he has been with Cassius this whole time. And they say that like basically they're protecting the people who can't protect themselves, and they get to a place where there has been a massacre, and they see that the people who did the massacre, and there are like more of them coming, are the Ascomani. I have no idea how to say that either. It says the term Ascomani is derived from the Germanic for Ashmen. With the obsidian diaspora from the poles of Earth and Mars, the myth has become reality. Bands of obsidians, alienated by the new strange world, freed from military slavery to gold masters, or exhausted from the Reaper's War, embrace the legend of their ancestors. So the Ascomani are coming, and there are still like some people that they try to save, and they get a bunch of people out of where some others have died. And then Lysander realizes that there is like one gold there, and he goes for that gold, which Cassius disagrees with, but he goes and he finds the gold. But there are also a lot of other colors, like other prisoners there of other colors, but he tries his best to save the gold and has to then leave all the others behind. And the gold is like really hurt, but he takes her to their ship, and they are, trying to run from the Ascomani, and they're trying to figure out where to go. And she, like before she passes out, says that there is an asteroid somewhere where there will be help. And Lysander decides that that is maybe the way to go, but there is like towards the rim, so that is dangerous. They can't pass basically the border with the rim, so like even getting close is dangerous, but they kind of have nowhere to go because they are being followed. And when they get close to that place where the gold said there would be help, a ship, like a warship, appears and destroys like the ship that is following them, but then they like board their ship. And they are now in trouble because when they are boarded, they realize that the gold that they have there is actually the daughter of the sovereign of the rim, and the people who boarded them are like her brother and his people, and they are now gonna be taken. So there's that. And then finally with Darrow, he is now 33, and they're still like trying to liberate, as he says, some of the planets. And after I think like 2 years of war or something, they have gotten Mercury, and the Ash Lord is now on like his last bastion, I think is what he says, which is in Venus. And so now there's only like Venus left for them to get rid of the Ash Lord. And we actually get to see like Darrow's son and also Severo's children, and it was really nice to like see all of these characters again together. And then there is like a meeting with the leaders basically of the Republic, and Cassia's mother actually gets there, and she tells everyone that the Ash Lord have asked like for a truce to have a conversation to discuss peace, which Darrow ignored and basically just started a battle. And people are not happy with that. I mean, people are already like not happy with the fact that they have kind of, been at war for 10 years. And especially like the Obsidians and even like the Reds, they are not happy with the position that they are in because they keep having to, send their people to a war and they keep losing people. And they want Darrow to be like removed from command and to have him have a trial. But Darrow knows that this is not going to end with politics, and he is pretty sure that the Ash Lord, he doesn't actually want a truce. He just wants to set a trap, and that they will fall into the trap. And he knows that this will only end with blood. So he asks Severo to gather the Howlers, and he just wants to go kill the Ash Lord. And so he's talking to these people, like asking who will join them, and Sephi says that she and the Obsidians like are done. She's tired of, again, like sending her people to Darrow's war and like have her people die. Like she's done with that, so she will not be joining. And losing the Obsidians is like a huge loss because they are, you know, super strong and super useful in a battle. So there's that, but still, like, Darrow has his plan, and Severo, like, wants to say goodbye to his kids, so they go back home, and Severo says goodbye to his kids, Darrow is saying goodbye to his son, and then as he's walking away, we see Mustang, and she tries to convince him to not leave, to not do this, but he is very determined. So she basically calls, like, the guards, and Darrow starts a fight, and Severo then joins the fight as well. And by accident, he actually kills, I guess he was like the head of the guard, and he's an Obsidian. So that's, again, terrible for his cause. But yeah, that is basically the end, is him like realizing that he made a terrible mistake. It says, this death will reach beyond this small plot of earth and rattle the Republic to its foundations. Wolfgar carried the luster of Ragnar's legend with him. He was a hero. More than that, he was a symbol, and not just to the Vox Populi. The people will hate me, especially the Obsidians. I've taken one of their favorite sons, one of their great bridges to the Republic, and cut him down in the grass. So things are not looking up, and yeah, that is where I'm at. And a lot has happened already in this first part, like things, like it went straight to the action, and I am definitely enjoying having like more POVs. Darrow is still my favorite POV, I think, because I'm like more attached to him already, or maybe because like I think the plot with him is the most interesting. I'm assuming they're like everything's gonna come together, but like for now, I think the plot with him is the most interesting, and then probably Lysander, and then Lyria, and the one that I'm the least interested in is Ephraim, but I still enjoyed his chapters, just like, you know, compared to the others, I'm not as, you know, invested in. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, it was really nice to see like the characters that I know and love again, and there was like one night, one dinner when they got to, you know, be happy and just be with each other and enjoy each other's company, and that was really heartwarming and nice to see. And now all of that is kind of destroyed, which is really sad, but I'm excited to see where it goes, and I am definitely worried about all of it because everyone seems to be in danger, and like relationships, friendships are being destroyed, and yeah, everyone's just gonna be really sad and miserable again, which is like what I was thinking before getting to this book, is like I'm very excited to get back into the story, but like I am not excited to see like the characters that I love suffering again, you know? So it's mixed feelings here, but you know, the book itself I am really, really enjoying. And like I said, I am excited, but I'm also very nervous. I'm very scared to see where it goes. And yeah, I'm going to read part 2 and I'll be back with my thoughts. Okay, so I have finished part 2. I am on page 380. A lot has been happening once again, and I think I'm gonna start actually with Darrow this time. And so he, you know, has his whole plan to go against the Ash Lord. And I guess the first step of that plan is to go to Earth, go underwater to a underwater prison to break out a prisoner that they say is a psychopath. So, you know, that is a plan. And they are going, they get to the prison, and they get to the cell where the person that they're looking for is supposed to be. But when they get there, he's not there. Like the person who's there is actually an obsidian who had like his tongue cut off, and so they start calling him tongueless, which I find incredibly rude, by the way. And he, like the obsidian, takes them to the warden of the prison, and in talking to the warden, they find out that basically the person that they're looking for, and I guess other prisoners who were meant to be like in solitary, have like made a deal with the warden, and they're just living like they are in a prison but like living in luxury basically. But they get there and they find the guy who they're looking for, who is called Apollonius, I guess, and he is a gold. He is like massive, strong, crazy, a psychopath, like they said, and he is actually Tactus's brother, and they sort of like lie to him to get him out of the prison, to like convince him to go with them. And before he goes, he like causes a ruckus and like hurts the warden really bad, but he ends up going with them, and for a while he stays just like in their ship as a prisoner. But then finally Darrow decides to go talk to him and like make a deal with him, and basically he will help him get the revenge that he wants, and you know, in exchange he will help Darrow, and they do agree to work together. And Darrow is like really struggling with having to like do what he thinks is the only way to fix things, and at the same time having to like leave his family behind. And there was a time when he was like thinking, I feel the distance grow between us, and I wonder if this is what it's like to be a bad father, always finding a reason to be gone, a reason that, no matter how virtuous or shining in the eyes of a child, will seem empty and false in the memories of the man he will soon become. So he's really struggling with that, especially because like when he left like the place where his family is, his son said like he knows that he will not come back, and he was like, no, I will, it'll be fine. And his son is like, no, I know he will not come back. So he's, you know, really struggling with that, but his plan seems to be, you know, getting in motion. I'm sure many things will go wrong, but for now it seems to be working out, and that is what we have with Darrow. And then moving on to Lyria, she one day is like out in the town, just, you know, exploring, basically having a day off, and she's like visiting the museums and everything. And then suddenly there's like a gold lady who tells the police that like Lyria stole a bracelet from her, which she obviously had not. But the police get her and they're like going to arrest her, and then a random guy gets there and he like vouches for Lyria and says like he knows her, and he knows that like she would not have done that, and you know, it would be bad if they arrested an innocent red, because like the Vox Populi would riot and it would just be really bad for everyone involved. So basically he convinces the police to let her go, and you know, they talk, they spend some time together, they hang out, and he actually gives her a necklace that he says was like his fiance that gave it to him, and it was like something very special to him. But now he gave it to her after like a few times of meeting, not like the first day that they meet, they hang out a couple more times. And that random man actually turns out to be Ephraim, and he just like wants to, I guess he wants her to share what is happening at Cavax's house. And she does share some things, not too much, but she does share a few things. And yeah, then she gets a necklace, she goes back to like her work, and there is like one night where there is like a party with a bunch of important people, including like Mustang and Victra and all of that, and she overhears like some politics conversations. And then when she goes outside, she actually meets Pax, so like Darrow and Mustang's son, and they, you know, talk a bit about just, you know, life, about the politics as well, and about how he sees himself, I guess, a gold, but also a red, and she really hated that he refers to himself as a red because, you know, he's nothing like the actual reds that she knows. So she was, you know, really pissed about that. But yeah, they meet, they talk a bit, and then there is time for Cavax to like take the kids, and the kids is like Pax and Severo's like oldest daughter, I think the oldest daughter, a daughter, and his people, and they are all on a ship. And then suddenly like the necklace that Ephraim gave Lyria like starts acting up, and then like a gas is released, and I was like, oh, okay. It was weird that he was being so nice, because he's not, a very warm person, and he was being very nice to her. And also, like, while they were talking, like, she was sharing her trauma, he was thinking like, I wish she would stop telling me her story. I can tell she's kept this pain locked in a dark little chest inside her, just like I did. But I'm not the good person she is. I want her to be a little nasty creature. Want to see the ugliness I know everyone's got inside them, seething out of her eyes, spewing out of her mouth. But all that comes are little tears. We're not alike. I hoard my pain because no one will understand it. She's just been looking for someone she can trust. Someone to share it with. Not me, stupid girl. I don't deserve it. But she keeps going, and I feel heavier and blacker on the grass, wishing I took more Zolodone. So yeah, the like most valuable thing in the world that he has to steal is Darrow's son. So yeah, the gas that is like released from the necklace like knocks everyone out, and then like they crash, like their ship crashes. And then Ephraim and like his group, they go there to get the boy and also Severo's daughter. And then Ephraim is supposed to kill Lyria because she will know that it was like his fake name that he gave to her, but like obviously they would figure out that it was him eventually. And so he is like going to kill her, and then he's like, oh my god, I can't do this. Oh my god, I have to do this. And he shoots her, but like the safety of the gun was on. So he actually didn't shoot her, and then he like couldn't do it again. So he also doesn't want to leave her there because then the others will think that she was actually guilty. So he decides to take her with him. And that's what we got from there. And that was crazy. And then more crazy things with Lysander. So they get to Io after a month of travel, and they learn that the gold that was on their ship, Seraphina, she left the rim, which is not allowed. Like the people from the core are not supposed to enter the rim, and the people from the rim are not supposed to go to the core. So she kind of broke the law there, and she did that to find out the truth of what had happened to their dogs, which we know was Darrow's fault, but that is kind of a secret. And yeah, that is like the reason why she left. And like she was sort of not really sent by her mom, but it is like her mom that has this idea that something sinister happened with our dogs, and it's not like the full story. Like what they know is not the full story. But yeah, she did that, and then her father is going to punish her for leaving. Her father, like the sovereign of the rim, is going to punish her for leaving by like keeping her there with like no communications, no way out. But then her mother, who's called like Dido, maybe, she gets there, and she actually has like a bunch of guards and people with her, and they take the sovereign, like her husband, and she is like gonna be the one in charge now, at least she wants to be. And she decides to not kill Cassius or Lysander because they like saved her daughter. So she takes them like to her house as guests, and then they're having like a dinner all together. And then she, like the mother, is giving a whole speech, and then she says that like she wants revenge on all the people who killed her, like another daughter, and she wants revenge against all of the people responsible. And the last name she says is Cassius, and she knows that one of the people there is Cassius. I don't think she knows who Lysander is, but she knows that the other is Cassius, even though he like modified his face before they were caught. Like she knows that it is him, and now she wants the revenge for what happened to her daughter. And her nephew basically challenges Cassius to like single combat to the death, and Cassius agrees. Not that he has much of a choice, I guess, but yeah, that is what happened in the second part, which was a lot, and I'm still really, really enjoying it. And I, especially like in Lyria's part, and I guess Ephraim's, I really like to see the different characters and different plot lines like connect. I really love to see that. I hate what happened to Lyria, but it was really nice to see all of these different characters from different backgrounds and places and all that like connect. That was really, really fun. And yeah, with Darrow, like I said, he's really struggling. And Lysander, he's very confusing. And I think he's also very confused because he keeps saying that like he like really resents Cassius because like he helped in killing his grandmother. So he resents him, but at the same time, he like spent the last 10 years taking care of him. So you sort of loves him as a brother a little bit, but he's sometimes like, I hate him and I want revenge, but other times he's like, I would never go against him because, you know, I care for him. And at the same time, he's like wanting the Golds to still be in charge, and at other times saying that like everything that went wrong with the world was the Gold's fault. So I think he's a little confused, which is understandable, but like, I don't love him. Like, his chapters are very interesting and I am excited when I'm in them, but I don't personally love him. I am definitely like Cassius way more, but yeah, he's confusing, and like I said, I think he's confused as well. But yeah, I'm really liking it. Like, I'm not getting the 5-star feeling that I got in the last book, but I'm really enjoying it nonetheless. I am very invested and I am very scared as well because I feel like everything is gonna go wrong. I mean, many things are already going wrong, and like now Cassie is gonna have this combats, and Severo and Darrow's kids were kidnapped, and Darrow's plan seems to be going sort of well, but I'm sure everything will go wrong eventually. So yeah, I'm scared. I'm very scared, but I'm also very excited. And yeah, I'm having a really good time, and I have just over 200 pages left, which is the whole of part 3. And so yeah, I will finish that and I will be back with what happened and my final thoughts and my final rating. Okay, so I finished Iron Gold, and I'm going to talk about Lysander's POV, I think, of like what happened in this part 3 first, because like his plotline is the most disconnected from the others. And so we are seeing Cassius, like his trial, and we are seeing him fight, and he wins his first fight, but then Dido, I still don't know if that's how you're saying her name, she keeps like sending more and more and more people to fight him, and obviously like he's getting more and more tired because he's fighting a bunch of people, but like he keeps winning until he seems to be like really struggling, and he's really tired, he's really hurt, he is like about to die. And Lysander, like when he was a kid, like 10 years ago, he saw basically everyone that he cared about die, and he didn't do anything about it, and he decides that he's not gonna do that again, and kind of like betrays Cassius and like all that he believes in and like what he wanted to do. They like stop the fight, and like stuff that Lysander has can prove that Darrow was the one that destroyed the dogs and stuff, and that can break the pact and start the war that Dido wants. And then like he's told that Cassius died from his wounds, which like I refuse to believe. I simply refuse to believe that Cassius is dead if I don't see a body. Like, I absolutely do not, for a single second, believe that he's dead. Maybe I'm just in denial, that's possible, but yeah, I refuse to believe that. But after that, there is going to be a trial for Romulus as well, because he, like, people think that he knew that Darrow was behind the destruction of the docks, and so he like hid all of that and he lied to his people, and there's going to be a trial, and his mother actually talks to Lysander because she wants his help to basically free Romulus before the trial, and he like tells her that he agrees to do it, but then he actually sort of like betrays her because he goes to tell Dido like that whole conversation and what he promised to do, and Dido says that like the whole trial is gonna be a sham, and the goal, like her goal, is to have like both her and Romulus reign as sovereigns, like the two of them together. And so we get to the trial, and Dido is, about to do what she wants and just to get her husband free. And then other people, like I guess other judges and stuff, like they start asking questions, and they ask like specifically if he knew that like what had happened to the dogs, and if he lied to his people, which he says that he did. He says yes to both questions. And so like that is treason, and he says that he did that to prevent the war, but it is treason nonetheless, and he is sentenced to death. And we see him like go off into where he will die, and now the war will start. The war can start, the war that Dido wants can start, and Lysander says that he will join her in her war. And that is what we get from Lysander. And then with Lyria and Ephraim, so he delivers the kids to the Duke of Hands, and Lyria like is still with his people, and she actually manages to escape, and she's like really pissed, obviously understandably, about like what he did. And so she is like on the run from the Obsidians that are after her, but she's like way smaller than them, so she can get through like holes in the walls and stuff and the vents, and she can escape. And she decides that she's going to help Mustang, even though she feels very like abandoned by Mustang, and she will like help her and try to help get the kids back. And so Holiday is actually taking Lyria back to where Mustang is, but Victra is like on the way, and she's like sort of attacking because her daughter was taken as well. And they managed to escape from Victra for a while at least. And then Lyria is like being questioned, and she's like about to be tortured to get the truth out of her, although she was telling the truth already. And then Mustang gets there, and she doesn't want like them to hurt her or anything, and they have like an actual conversation. They like together, and with Holiday as well, they figure out who Philippe, so Ephraim, actually is. And Holiday's like, oh, that's my brother-in-law. And so like she like really knows who he is. And we then see that they get to Ephraim, and they tell him that they have Volga, who was like his friend / co-worker, so like he kind of has to help them. And then Ephraim goes back to the Duke of Hands, and he tries to like distract him and seduce him. And then he gets to a point where he has to like attack him and sort of take him and make him take him to the kids. And they get to the kids, and he like there is a whole fight, which I was very stressed during, but he manages to get the kids out. They get on a ship, and they are going on a ship, but then the ship, which was like from the Duke of Hands, it is like overtaken by the queen of the syndicate. And then like he tries something kind of crazy, and they are sort of like falling, I guess. They are in trouble, and that is like what it ends with them. Like it's like the last thing that he can try to do to escape the syndicates, but they are not safe, definitely. And that is like where we end with Ephraim and the kids. And with Lyria, we get just one more thing where she's like just waiting for this whole thing with the kids to happen. And then she is like, the woman gets there and kind of like she takes Lyria, and she basically was sent by Victra. So that is where we are with them. And then finally Darrow. So they get to like Apollonia's people and like his brother, and Severo like doesn't really believe that their plan is gonna work. He went along with Darrow because they're friends, they're like brothers, and he obviously wants to help him, but he doesn't really believe that their plan is going to work. And he thinks that Darrow is kind of like lost in his own myth. But they do go to where the Ash Lord is, and they start attacking like Darrow and his Howlers, but they're kind of like being slaughtered. But then Apollonius and these people get there, and they like really turn the tide, and they start winning. And then they find the Ash Lord, and the Ash Lord is actually like really sick, and he's just like in bed. He doesn't leave the bed. He's really like dying. And who has been like doing all of like the war stuff is his daughter, and she is now like going for the Republic. So that's not good. And then Darrow and Severo also learn that their kids were taken. So there is like, I did all of this, I risked all of these people, lost some people, killed some people for nothing. And that is kind of the truth. And so now like Severo and the others, they're gonna go back to try to, rescue the kids and rescue the Republic and like rescue everything, but Darrow is not going with them. And then like at the end, last chapter, we get just Darrow thinking, I have made my choice and it kills me to know I chose not to be a father, not to be a husband. I failed at both when I chose the Rising over my family. And the very last line of the book is, I pulled the key Pax gave me from my neck and put it in my bag, setting aside the father, welcoming the Reaper, and letting the old rage take hold. So I just know things are gonna go crazy in the next book. But yeah, that is what happened in this one, and let's go into my final thoughts. And as usual, I'm gonna start with the characters, and it was definitely very interesting to follow different POVs in this book because we're used to only following Darrow. So that was very interesting. It was strange at first, but I definitely liked it. Even though I didn't love every single character that I followed, I liked following like all their perspectives and like all of the different plot lines. But focusing on the characters and obviously starting with Darrow, I really like to see him and to see like this older version of him because he's now in his early 30s, I think, and we started following him when he was a teenager. So he's obviously, grown and changed, and it was really sad to see that he's really like still struggling and suffering almost like this entire book. Like it was, and also like that he doesn't really have a strong relationship and a strong bond with his son. And like it was really nice in the beginning when we get to see like all the characters hanging out together. Like that scene was really like heartwarming, but other than that it was just suffering. But yeah, I really like to follow him still, and I am very worried about him, but also excited to see what's to come. And Severo, like I still absolutely love him. It was definitely sad to see that like his and Darrow's friendship is now not gonna be as strong. I think at least like he's leaving Darrow, which I obviously understand, like seeing him lose faith in Darrow, which again, I understand. Probably if I was in his position, I would as well. But yeah, it was quite sad, but I do really, really love Severo. He's definitely one of my favorite characters. And Mustang, we didn't really get like that much from her. And also, I can't call her by her real name. I don't know why, like she's just Mustang to me. And yeah, like I was saying, she was not like very present in this book, but the scenes that we got with her, I did enjoy, and I really like the scenes that we got with her and Lyria, like their conversation, I did really enjoy. And then Lyria, I definitely really, really, really like her. She's definitely like my favorite of the new characters, and I really like to follow her like as a character, like learning about her, getting to know her, but also her POV was very interesting. And Ephraim, I also like to follow him, like his POV was also interesting, although I only really started to care when his plotline kind of merged with Lyria's. Like before, I didn't really care, and I like to follow him, but I definitely don't love him. But I do feel like that if he, survives this, I would love to see like a sort of redemption arc for him, and I feel like that has potential, and it has potential for me to like him way more than I like him now. Like I did like when he went back for the kids. Obviously, like he kind of was forced to, but he was like feeling bad about it, which is something. But yeah, I also did really like to follow his perspective. And then Lysander, like his whole like POV was very, very, very interesting. I was really hooked into that plot line, but I don't love Lysander either. And like I think I mentioned, he was very like confused on what to do most of the time, which is understandable. I just don't particularly love him. And when he chose finally a side, he chose the one that I wouldn't want him to choose, but it was like the logical choice for him. It was like what made sense for his character to choose and what I expected him to choose. I just, it wasn't the choice that I loved personally. Oh, and like Cassius, like the death, I refuse to believe that Cassius is dead. Absolutely refuse it. But yeah, I really liked it. And there was so much happening in like different places with different people, and I was invested in all of it. Like I said, the only part that I wasn't as invested in was Ephraim's story in the beginning. But once it connected like with Lyria's and like the rest, I was also very interested in that. It was very interesting and at the same time very devastating to see like the aftermath of what we saw in the first 3 books, because you know the end of the 3rd book makes you think like things are gonna be okay now, like everything is gonna be fixed, like not immediately but eventually everything's gonna work out, and you know everything's gonna get better. And it did not get better. I mean, for some people it did, obviously, but it's not great, and our characters are still suffering a lot. So it was definitely heartbreaking to read that. And I really like to see them as older people as well, because like I said, we started following them, or a lot of them, as teenagers, and they are now like in their 30s, so I really like to see that. And I'd seen like some people say that this book was just okay and then it gets like really good, but actually I didn't think it was okay at all. Like I really liked it. I was like hooked from the beginning to the end, and I was stressed, I was worried, I was excited, I was sad, I was happy in very little moments. And yeah, I really liked it. Like it's not 5 stars like Morning Star was, it didn't give me that feeling, but I really liked it, and I think I'm giving it 4.5 stars. And yeah, I'm very excited, also very scared to continue the series, but mostly very excited. And I do already own the next book, so I will hopefully get to it soon. And yeah, that is everything for this video. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you have enjoyed it, and if you did, give it a like and subscribe, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!